Guess it's about that time.
We just finished.
All right, guys, it's 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started here. I want to welcome you all to the regularly scheduled council meeting of the governing body of Spring Hill, Kansas on Thursday, May 8th, 2025. If you guys would stand with me, I will do the invocation. Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you for the beautiful weather we've had today, God. Thank you for bringing us all together this evening, God, to try to make the best decisions for our community and for the citizens here, God. Give us wisdom as we do that. Thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please remain standing for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Mr. Young, Mr. Peel,
Here.
Mr. Saran,
Here.
Mrs. Feback, here. Mr. Grant,
Here.
Mayor, we do have a quorum present.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to approval of agenda. We did not have any requested changes, but if there are any questions or comments on that, now would be the time. If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to citizen participation. This is time when the public can come in and speak about whatever they would like to talk about. The first person on the list is Mrs. Sharon Mitchell.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I just wanted to give you a little update on the First Friday, since you worked really hard to get that permit approved for us. And I know some of you were there, but we had our first one last Friday, and it was, we had a little weather challenge at the beginning, a little rain, a little hail, a little wind, a little this, a little that, but and it was a little chilly. But I think overall it was a good first start. We didn't spread the net really wide, so but we had 7 vendors there. The vault said they had 112 or 111 people in and out of there. And I think one of the churches giving away popcorn said they gave away close to 120 bags of popcorn. So the food, we only ended up having one food truck, and it was, busy the whole time. And so we're just going to move forward. The music was great. And so anyway, I just wanted to give you that update that it went well. I really appreciate the collaboration with Public Works. They were extremely easy to work with, and just appreciate all the support from the city and the Recreation Commission as well. So thank you. That's all I got.
Yeah, I went with my kids. I don't know if any of you guys, I think I saw you there as well. So yeah, it was fun. There was actually more people there than I was expecting for the first time. So it was pretty well attended. And I think as the word spreads and we get more vendors and stuff, I think it'll get bigger and bigger. But it's nice to see something else going on down there in the historic downtown part. So kind of cool. All right, that is the only person we had sign up on the list. But if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak, now would be your time. If not, we'll go ahead and close citizen participation at this time and move on to the consent agenda. These are items that the staff considers to be routine maintenance, but if there's any questions or comments, I entertain them. If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal council action at this time. The first item on the agenda is consider approval of merger agreement with Water One. And I have Mr. Massey, Mrs. Dunn, and Mr. Spear on here, so whoever wants to tackle that first.
Takes us all. Well, I often get to come up here and say this has been a lot of time in the making, but this one might be have taken longer than anything else. I think in all the research we've seen that Spring Hill and Water One have talked about a merger of these two systems maybe since the 1990s, if I remember right. So this one's been in the works for a long time. And so it's good tonight to have it here in front of you for you to make a decision on it. I wanted you to be aware that in addition to the city staff that's worked on this. We have some folks here from Water One, and I'll let them introduce themselves to you. Sean?
Hello, I'm Sean Pedig, the general manager of Water One, and happy to be here. If you have
Happy.
questions.
Happy to have you here. She has worked on this project with us for quite some time. And so she would be here, of course, if you have any specific questions to Water One. So what we're considering tonight is to authorize the mayor to execute a merger agreement with Water One to take over the city's water utility. As you know, our water utility has about 2,000 customers. We currently get a supply from Miami Rural Water District 2 in Miami County, and we don't produce our own water, we're a reseller. Our system is bound geographically, we can't grow. The others can grow around us, but we cannot grow, so we're this little island in the center. In addition to partnering with a company that can grow and has the water and the resources to help the community move forward, it's a great thing for our customers to get very high quality water from a partner or a supplier who can grow with them, as well as provide it at a lower cost than we can at the city of Spring Hill in the long term. I want to make sure we stay focused on the benefits to our customers and our citizens, because that is the real benefit of this agreement. There's no, this is the best reason that we can go forward is for the benefit of our citizens. So you're aware, and this is in your agenda review sheet, an average water bill in the city of Spring Hill is $53.15. When we transfer over to Water One and it's complete, the average should reduce to $46.61 a month at Tier 1 rates. After the 10-year development charge expires, that average should go down to $32.89, a significant monthly savings to our customers. We are going to work together on a temporary agreement for us to buy water from Water One instead of Miami 2 at a savings over the rate offered to us by our current supplier. And then eventually, of course, the system and all of its maintenance and costs will transfer over. To complete the merger, there are some expenses that we've been talking about along the way here, and there are some additional expenses to complete the merger that will need to be funded by the city. By statute, Water One cannot pay to acquire a system. And so any cost associated with the merger falls on the merging company, if you will, in this case, Spring Hill. The total amount of the not to exceed for the cost of the merger is about $360,000. We're suggesting a not to exceed $370,000. When we started out, the total cost for this part of it was in excess of $400,000. Wayne and Sean worked together to find some cost savings and some changes in there that reduce the amount the citizens will have to pay. Some of the bigger ticket items are two things. One, the water mains. When we switch from our system pressure to Water One system pressure, we have the potential there could be water main breaks. We're fortunate in our system, we don't have a lot of breaks compared maybe to other systems, but we have agreed to fund the cost of 2 water main break repairs if they happen post-merger, and then after that, Water One would be responsible for any main breaks. The second thing is we have 316 fire hydrants in the city of Spring Hill, and we've agreed to repair or replace 21 hydrants if needed in the system. That's are the 2 biggest items that we'll have to fund. Other things on here are GPS related things, the mapping out of the system, linear piping assets, locating all the water meters, basically converting our system to theirs are the other related costs. We expect to incur about $66,000 before June of 2025. And then after the transfer date, the other $300,000 would be incurred. We will not write a check for this amount. It'll be pay as you go. When we repair a hydrant, we would have some sort of bill from Water One to pay or pay for the repair or do it ourselves. But it would not be that we're just going to write them a check and then hope that's how it works out. So I think it's a good partnership. I think it's working together for the best solution and above all, the best water at the best cost for our customers. I'm going to turn to all of these talented people behind me here who've been involved to see if I forgot anything. Oh, Spencer's got me.
The one clarification I will make is the water supply agreement is part of this. So that's been completed, and signing this merger agreement will include signing that supply agreement. So just want to make sure no one out there thinks that we're merging systems and we haven't gotten where the water's coming from in the short term yet. We know where the water's coming from. It's coming from Water One in the short term. And then once the system is finally switched over and the merger date is done, there won't be a temporary water supply agreement. Water One will just have the system and be providing that water.
We also didn't mention that in this temporary time until the merger's complete, the citizens of Spring Hill will still get a bill from the city. They'll still pay it to the city. They won't know a difference. That may know a difference in their water quality, but they won't see a different bill from a different company or have to sign up for services until the actual merger happens. So they don't have any action the citizens have to take at this time.
I had a quick question. So in all of our notes here, it says an NTE amount of 359,636, but you said 370.
I was rounding up. If that's what your motion is, that's fine.
Okay.
I always like to leave a little room there because things happen you don't expect.
Yeah, maybe 360.
360 sets a round number.
Okay.
Yep.
I had some questions. Are
Absolutely.
some more people going to be presenting?
No, it's a team effort. If we need, whoever we need, we'll have them step in and answer.
Okay, I just want to make sure, are you done
Yes.
presenting what you were? Okay. So with this merger, I mean, I know maybe some people are following this and have heard in other meetings that this is on the table or whatever. So we're merging because of water quality and cost, is that correct?
Cost to our customers, yes. This is a way to save money for them. And it's also an upgrade in quality, and we cannot grow. So we don't have any way to increase our system or generate more customers in case we have to do major repairs. We're kind of stuck with where we are right now.
With staying with Miami?
Right.
It also gives the ability as we grow. Miami 2 has a limited amount of allocation available and water rights, whereas Miami 2 has a limited amount of water rights and allocation, whereas Water One has a large availability. So as we get projects, either residential or industrial, that come to town, there's a higher likelihood that they have the ability to cover that. And based on conversations with Water One, they don't anticipate any issues with growth.
Just for what it's worth, as city attorney, I'm going to jump in. When we're moving because of water quality, Miami 2 doesn't have like bad quality, and we're not moving because it's not up to standards. Water One, in our opinion, has better quality and has won quite a few national awards. Some of them are in your agenda review sheet. So I just want to make it clear, we're not trying to say anyone is currently getting poor water or not good enough water.
Right.
We just believe that this is a higher quality water at a lower
Actually, gonna be one of
cost.
my questions.
Yeah, no,
Mine
it's
quality.
improving on the quality we currently have, not that it's bad.
Yep.
I don't want to be, somebody else have, I have a couple more questions.
You mentioned that there's going to be some adjustments for citizens as they start, as we make this transition.
Right.
What are the citizens or the clients necessarily going to have to deal with moving forward as far as getting their accounts set up with Water One? What kind of things are they looking at?
We are providing the data for them to set up the customers in the Water One system so that they don't have to take 2,000 phone calls to set up 2,000 people. We expect it to be a pretty smooth transition with little required of the citizens.
Okay.
That will be a Water One activity, not a Spring Hill activity, so I don't really speak for them, but we are sharing information appropriately so that they can minimize the efforts.
And we will work with Water One staff to notify customers
Yes.
as this transition occurs. So I think there's going to be a concerted effort between Water One and city staff to make that transition as smooth as possible.
Are we looking at adding anything to the website as far as notes?
Yes.
Yep.
And those changes or transfers would happen post-merger, and in the immediate time period between that, everything stays the same. So like if
Everything
you're on
stays-
Spring Hill Water, you're still gonna get Spring Hill water bill for at least a little while until this all
Right.
transacts.
Yes.
And what kind of notice are we providing to Miami too if this goes through?
We provided notice to them in December of our plans, and our agreement with them expires June 30th. And they are aware. We've been working with them for months on it.
I just want to make sure everybody else.
Yeah, no, it's no surprise. We've been working on that for, months now.
On the main break repairs and hydrant repairs, is there any timeline attached to that? Or basically, we get the first two mains no matter what?
Yeah, if it's 5 years from now, or
Or
we,
both in the first 6 months?
It would end at the
or
merger.
Takes 6 years, or the second one doesn't hit till year 10, that one's still ours?
It ends at merger,
Okay.
and they take over the system, and then they're all their responsibility.
So if we don't get any main breaks
Lucky us.
pre-merger, then that's a benefit for us.
That's right.
Yeah,
Cross
so
your fingers.
So the way the contract is written, the water supply agreement kicks in first. Everyone who is under Spring Hill Water continues to be billed by Spring Hill Water. They won't notice a change in how that's paid or who their bill's coming from. The contract effective date, which is when the system is completely switched over and Water One is now providing the bills and all of that,
Totally there.
is by the end of next year. We built in some flexibility to make sure there's time. There's a lot of data to get transferred over to Water One. And they also have other things going on. They weren't just sitting around waiting for us to bring them customers. So it might happen before December 3rd. Well, it'll happen probably before December 31 of 2026. But as we get closer to that date and have some more certainty on when that will happen, we'll start notifying everyone to make sure that people know. But yeah,
So fair to say our transition period's gonna be about 1.5 years.
Yes.
it'll max out of the year and a half, yeah.
We'll also put together a communication campaign. Once you make the approval, I feel like we need to start talking to the public that the deal is done and how it's going to work for them. And we'll use all of our normal avenues for communicating with the public.
And I think, I mean, it's not going to happen in the next 6 months, fair to say.
I'll know.
Yeah. So, yeah, sort of up in the air. But yeah, this isn't going to be happening in the next few weeks at least. So people have time to kind of, we can educate folks.
Right.
Another point of clarification with our city existing across both county lines, people on the Miami County side are going to be receiving this access to Water One also, right?
Anyone who is a City of Spring Hill water customer, regardless of their county, will receive it. If you are a Miami or a Johnson County 7 customer, this does not impact you. If you're a current Water One customer, it does not impact you.
So only if you get a Spring Hill bill.
Right. Only if you get a Spring Hill water bill.
any other questions or comments?
I wanted to see if, Sean, if you had anything you'd like to say or we didn't cover, we're happy to give you the,
I think you covered it fantastic.
thank you.
I just want to say that your staff is amazing, that they've been really, really good to work with, very responsive. I think that, we both were trying to just be fair and make this equitable for your customers. We just want to support the community and whatever's best for the community. So I just want to applaud your staff. They've been great to work with.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to authorize the mayor to execute the merger agreement with Water District Number 1 of Johnson County, Kansas, once final form is approved and provided by the city attorney, including migration costs incurred in an amount not to exceed $360,000.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I would probably make one comment. Any costs associated, for the public more, any costs associated with this merger would be paid from the water fund. It is not supported by taxpayers or any tax revenue. It's all from the users of the system.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of retention of Timothy Orick from Orick and Erskine to provide legal services for potential eminent domain acquisition of easements for the Northeast Sewer Interceptor Project. And Mr. Lau, you have the floor.
All right, we've brought a few things before you in the past. There's going to be some more tonight on our Northeast Sewer Interceptor construction and expansion. One of the things the city may need to use to have that construction completed and to acquire the easements to put those lines in is the eminent domain process. It is still absolutely the city's goal not to use eminent domain and reach agreements with landowners, but at a certain point, you know, when everyone's signed on but one, there's really only one option. And so you guys are aware, just a refresher, eminent domain, there's still a compensation paid to the landowner, so that we're not just taking something and leaving someone high and dry. It's a court process that kind of determines the fair value of what's being taken. So as part of that, eminent domain is a pretty specific statutory process. Tim is an expert statewide on that, and most communities use him rather than their own legal counsel because he can do it quicker, faster, and in this case, he can do it cheaper than I can because his rate is a little lower than what my rate is, and this would be a separate litigation, so it kind of falls outside that flat fee. So from a financial perspective, it makes sense. From a subject matter expert, makes sense. So yeah, we're going to retain him, and he will kind of take the show and run it from here.
Any questions or comments?
Estimated total fees. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So my question is in reference to eminent domain. It doesn't have anything to do with this, so I don't know. I mean, I know you kind of explained what it is, but I just want to make sure people understand, like, you're not just going to be, you're not, I mean, like the process for eminent domain, it could potentially sound intimidating to people.
Sure.
So can you explain a little bit more how that works? Like how many, like the discussion piece, what that looks like in notices?
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds that way.
Yeah, we are in the process of contacting. We've contacted the landowners. We're in the process of negotiating. Okay. The city's land agent, who you guys have also retained, Johnny Emrine, kind of runs point on contacting people, putting together legal descriptions. He works with our city engineer and Lamprecht Nearson on that. And then they and Tim work all together on eminent domain. So the way the process works, and you will have it here tonight, there's a resolution where we identify the parcels over which some level of eminent domain is sought. We identify the parts of those. For this, it's just two types of easements. It's a permanent easement for where we're running the sewer, so we'll bury the sewer, put the land back, reseed it, all of that. Hopefully it'll look like it was before. So no one's losing complete use of the top part of their land. We also are looking for temporary construction easements. So on either side of the permanent easement, we need to have the ability to go in there and tear that up as well for the digging. And again, for the temporary construction easement, we are required to replace that to the way it was. If we took a fence down, the city puts the fence back up. If the city tears up grass, they put grass back down. We go out and find land values for what these are worth, and we offer that to landowners who do not want that or that we can't negotiate with to a reasonable amount. We will file for eminent domain. That'll be in the Johnson County District Court. The court will appoint 3 appraisers, real estate appraisers. They will each go out and independently come to their own conclusion on what they think the value of each easement is worth. They'll write a report, they'll give it to the court. The court looks at the 3. I don't want to say it's as easy as averaging them because I don't want to say the judge isn't doing anything difficult, but the judge analyzes all 3 of those and comes to what the court decides that fair value is based on those 3 neutral appraisers. So none of those appraisers are city employees. As the party bringing that action, the city does have to pay them, so the landowners don't have to pay to have someone tell them what their land is worth. That's probably one of the more expensive parts of eminent domain, and it's why we would like to reach agreements with landowners, and this is sort of a last resort. So once the court makes that order, the city has to pay it pretty quickly. That's just the way it is. Both parties can appeal if they want to. It's fairly rare. But yeah, it doesn't stop there if someone's still unhappy.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, but again, definitely a last resort. The goal is that what you guys are going to do tonight after you retain Tim, or if you retain Tim, we're going to bring in a resolution and an ordinance to, that's the first step of eminent domain. We're just identifying the land. That doesn't mean we're going to file for eminent domain tomorrow. We're still going to wait a little bit and try to keep negotiating, but this is sort of a contingency plan just in case, so that we don't delay that sewer project too long.
Any other questions, comments? Not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve retention of Oric and Erskine to perform legal services to the city for the Northeast Sewer Interceptor Project.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of resolution number 2025-R-11, a resolution declaring the necessity and authorizing a survey and description of land and/or interests in lands necessary to be condemned for the location, laying out, construction, reconstruction, operation, use, maintenance, and repair of the Northeast Interceptor Sewer Project within Johnson County, Kansas. And Mr. Lau, you still have the floor.
Thank you. And for what it's worth, when it comes time to make a motion, you can just say, I would, if you are going to move to approve resolution 2025-R11 as identified in the agenda packet and on screen. If you don't want to read that whole paragraph, I had to give you guys the out now. As someone who stumbles over himself, I want to make sure everyone feels comfortable with that. All right, so as I said, there's two kind of preliminary steps to an eminent domain proceeding. It's a resolution and an ordinance that the governing body of the city using eminent domain passes. So the resolution is an identification of the land that may be necessary to condemn certain portions thereof, and it's just for the extension of sewer and wastewater services. So we can't go out there and say, you know what, we're putting a sewer line in, but we really like this pasture, we're going to go ahead and take the whole thing. We're just looking for that sewer line to bury. And then after this, there will be an ordinance you'll consider next to authorize the exercise of eminent domain on those same properties. And once both of those, if both of those are approved, then we can authorize myself and Tim to kind of get that process going here probably in a few weeks for any properties that negotiations have broken down on.
Any questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-R-11, declaring the necessity and authorizing a survey and description of lands and/or interests in lands necessary to be condemned for the location, laying out, construction, reconstruction, operation, use, maintenance, and repair of the Northeast Interceptor Sewer Project within Johnson County, Kansas.
Nice job.
A second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of ordinance number 2025-06, an ordinance condemning land and/or interest in the lands necessary for the location, laying out, construction, reconstruction, operation, use, maintenance, and repair of Northeast Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Project with Johnson County, Kansas, and directing the city attorney to institute eminent domain proceedings as provided by law to acquire the parcels of land and/or interest in such parcels of land described in this ordinance. And Mrs. Abel or Mr. Lau, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm going to keep up here. I'm on a bit of a roll. Nothing really new to tell you on this one. We've kind of talked about eminent domain last two actions. This is that second step. It's the ordinance that officially gives the city attorney, and then my designee is Tim Oric, or gives us the authority to go ahead and file when the city's ready. So.
Safe to say these past three are all tied together.
Correct, yes. This is sort of the conclusion of the trilogy.
Any other questions or comments?
Again, you're welcome to abbreviate your motion to 2025-06 as titled by the staff report and the screen, or if you want to be like Councilman Repeal and show off, get to it.
I mean, I just feel like I have to do it the hard way.
Yeah,
So-
nothing wrong with that.
With that, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 2025-06, condemning land and/or interests in lands necessary for the location, laying out, construction, reconstruction, operation, use, maintenance, and repair of the Northeast Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Project within Johnson County, Kansas, and directing the city attorney to institute eminent domain proceedings as provided by law to acquire the parcels of land and/or interest in such parcels of land described in this ordinance.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mr. Thron,
Yes.
Mrs. Feback,
Yes.
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mr. Grant.
Yes.
Mayor, ordinance 2025-06 passes 400.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of ordinance number 2025-07, amending Chapter 1, Article 9 of the Spring Hill Municipal Code relating to the cemetery board. And Mr. Lau, you have the floor.
Cool. All right. I think this is my last one of the night, unless Allison wants me to step in for grant stuff, which would go poorly for everybody. Good way to not get the grants. All right. So Chapter 1, Article 9, we are looking at some of the governing city code for our cemetery board. For anyone who's not aware, the city owns the Spring Hill Cemetery. Its operation is governed by our city code, which is the section we're kind of looking at tonight. The cemetery has its own bank account, investments, financial records, and property records. As you might recall, the chairman of that board came here and gave you all a report not too long ago. So after kind of working through that report and looking at it, staff has decided to just sort of tweak what we want to see and what staff wants to see coming out of the report for the cemetery board. So we're going to update the ordinance to be clear on the reporting requirements and just the documents we want them to be bringing forward, since that is still public money that's part of our mill levy. So the balance of the funds are in your agenda review sheet, $33,916. The city has a cemetery reserve fund that's just over $91,000. So plenty of money in there for now, but a lot of upkeep on the cemetery. We just want to make sure what they're being required to do is clear, since it's a volunteer board. We don't want any ambiguities on that. So, Rhonda, anything else I'm missing? In case her microphone wasn't on, she said perfect, everybody.
Do you have any detail on what tweaks we're requesting them to report, or what changes were made?
Sure. So if you scroll down to the ordinance itself, we are just amending 1903G. And just kind of sets out the documents we want them to bring to the city council and staff as part of that report. So statement of revenue expenses for the year, ledgers, revenue and expenses, bank statements, including any copies of checks and deposits, copies of statements related to any certificates of deposit or any other investments, the treasurer's bond that state law requires them to have as a cemetery board, copies of their board minutes over the past year, so that's all in one place. Copy of treasurer reports from the prior year, again, getting it all in one place, and then a budget request for the next year. So we would like to just have one packet of information so that you all or staff doesn't have to dig through all of their meeting minutes over the past year to kind of cobble that together. And, not that there's a ton of meetings, but they'll be able to keep those as they go and just kind of present it as one packet. So they're already required to come to report to you on the financial status. So this is just sort of showing the math on that. Not that anyone thinks they're not, but, in the effort of openness and keeping things public, we want that up there. So.
Any other questions or comments? None, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-07, amending Chapter 1, Article 9 of the Spring Hill Municipal Code relating to the cemetery board.
And second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mrs. Feback,
Yes.
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mr. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Thron.
Yes.
Mayor, ordinance 2025-07 passes 400.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Lau. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of task order with HDR for grant assistance and authorize staff to submit grant applications to U.S. Department of Transportation and Kansas Infrastructure Hub for the SS4A Implementation Grant Program. And Mrs. Abel, you have the floor.
Well, again, I keep finding money everywhere, so we've got a lot of grant opportunities before us. I'm going to present a couple of them tonight. The first one is for the Safe Streets for All, or SS4A. They have another round of implementation grant funding that's available. That opens up here soon, or that is already open right now and expire. The deadline is in mid-June, so we're working on finishing up our SS4A plan. We'll be before you in June to get that adopted. And shortly after that, we will be applying for some implementation grants. During our last city council meeting, Taylor from HDR did a great presentation on some of the hot topics, some of the high-profile projects that we wanted to include in this grant application. That map has been included in your packet if you want to review that. Good smattering of projects around the city, and some of them are sidewalks, a lot of them are roadway projects. We have an on-call with HDR, and this is one of those opportunities where we can utilize their services. They've got a great grant writing staff that specialize specifically in this, and they've got a great relationship with the Kansas Infrastructure Hub, where for those of you that may not know, the Kansas Infrastructure Hub helps out tremendously with communities providing the local match. For example, the grant that we received for the SS4A program, we received $200,000 for the SS4A. Our local match after all the Kansas Infrastructure Hub stuff was $12,500. So out of the $250,000 program, $12,500 ain't too bad. So we're hoping that with this implementation grant, our local match, if we apply to some of the grants that the Infrastructure Hub, we'll be able to bring down that local match so that's less out of pocket for us. So there's a lot going on with this, the motion tonight. We need to hire Taylor and his crew at HDR to finalize some of the traffic data. There's a lot that goes into this specific grant application. There is a lot of data that needs to be presented, and that backup information, cost estimates and everything. So all in, it's a little over $40,000 that we would need to spend with them to do the grant application, provide all the cost estimates, and almost get to a conceptual level of planning for each one of these projects. The second part is for us to authorize staff to submit the grant application. So whenever we get this done, we get the plan adopted through SS4A, then we can go ahead and move forward and submit the grant application without having to come before you again, and trying to streamline this as much as possible. And then also authorize staff to seek out and apply for some of those Kansas Infrastructure Hub grant opportunities as we see them, to help out with that local match. So all three of those are combined in this agenda review sheet, and I'd like to include all three of those in the motion so that it kind of helps streamline this, and I don't have to keep coming up here meeting after meeting after meeting. So with that, I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions or comments?
You said working with HDR is going to be around $40,000 to get it to a concession.
Yeah, they provided us a scope and fee that is included in your packet. The total amount is $40,042. I don't know if you want to round up and do something with Rhonda, but I feel comfortable keeping it at the $40,042 since that matches their scope and fee.
Or we could round down to 40.
You can try, but I might go $42 over budget. I really don't want to do that.
And what's the payout as far as the grants looking at? I forgot what you said. I apologize.
I didn't
are we
say.
actually looking for these grants?
I don't know that for sure, but I can follow up with you and let you know. I don't remember offhand.
I'm saying it's easier.
Typically, it's an 80-20.
Yeah, I don't know that he knows the dollar amount yet, because I don't know that they ran the costs.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know the dollar amount. It could be an 80-20 match, but also they have a set amount of money available, so they may obligate lesser money, and we may have to pay, choose to pay out more. So we'll have that decision point whenever I come back before you with a funding application or a funding agreement.
So we agreeing to fund them now, not knowing how much money we're actually going to see.
You're just authorizing me to go after the grant funding.
Right.
And then later, once we get the grant, once we get some notice of award,
Then
we'll have to go through another step of entering into an agreement. So you guys will have another opportunity to review that, and we can make those decisions on which projects make sense to fund, which projects, and, hopefully we'll have a little bit more information for you and, that dollar amount from them. So.
Thank you much.
I don't have a question, I have a comment. I just am really impressed by how you go out and find these grants for our city. I really appreciate it because sometimes they're hard to find.
They're very hard to find,
Yeah.
and I am thankful to, we've got a bunch of consultants that have like those expertise and everything. They have really been a tremendous help, but I also am very tight whenever it comes to money, and if we can get more done with less local match, then I am on board with that.
I just want to say thank you. I think it's great for our city.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? I think this is just kind of moving us closer to the goals of the whole governing body to get some trails, get some hot topic areas throughout the community knocked out. So I think this will get us whatever money we can get coming in will get us that much closer to the goals. So with that, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve a task order with HDR for the grant support for the Safe Streets for All implementation grant. Authorize staff to submit a grant application to the U.S. Department of Transportation for the SS4A implementation grant program, and authorize staff to submit a grant assistance application to the Kansas Infrastructure Hub.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Along that lines, the next item on the agenda is consider approval of a task order with Black and Veatch for application assistance and authorize staff to submit loan application for the SRF and the WIFIA programs for the new wastewater treatment facility. And Mrs. Abel, you have the floor.
Okay, well, the next item before you is a request for a lot of things dealing with the wastewater treatment facility. There's some funding available out there. It's loan opportunities, so it's different than grant funding, but still they're low interest loans that gives us an opportunity to pay that back over a longer period of time. And so there's two different ones out there. There's the State Revolving Fund, the SRF, and then there's the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, or WIFIA. Both of those are available to us. They both have, the SRF deadline is coming up next week. So we have asked Black and Veatch to help us out with developing that application. They have legislative specialists and grant writers on staff that work closely with the people on the Hill to get this information. So they know exactly what triggers or what things we need to include in our grant application to get their attention. So we're utilizing their technical staff to provide solid cost estimates and some technical data to include in the applications. These applications are not short. They're like 30 pages. So in order for us to, the WIFIA application is quite daunting. So in order for us to compile all this information and do all of this and have that technical expertise, we drew upon the experts at Black and Veatch. Black and Veatch is one of our on-calls. And again, this is exactly why I set that up, so that we can help expand our staff and our services to better serve the public and bring the experts in when we need it. And we definitely need it for this one because I don't have time to fill out a 30-page application. Again, this is going to be an authorization to have a task order with Black and Veatch in the amount of $13,000 to assist with both of those applications with the technical expertise and the grant writing. The second part of this is to authorize the staff to submit a pre-application. There's a pre-application that's due for SRF. It's due tomorrow. So in order for us to kind of get some feedback and everything from KDHE on whether this is a good project, why isn't it a good project? It really is. So anticipate that we'll get some really good feedback, but to authorize us to submit that pre-application and then go through the longer process of the SRF and the WIFIA application. So that's pretty much the scope of it. So I'm available if you have any questions. But again, I wanted to try to combine this as much as I could so that I'm not coming back before you 3 separate occasions for exactly the same thing.
My only comments on this is just one of those big important ones that we've been talking about for months and months, actually really years. Talking about a new wastewater treatment facility and the need for that. So $13,000 is a pretty low amount to really chase after big time dollars. So yeah, I'd say it's a good thing moving forward. So
I had some questions about the details as far as the loans go themselves. With these applications, say we get approved through the SRF, we haven't decided how much money we're actually spending on our facility yet. So how does that look as far as securing this money? Do we just take what we want from them at that point after they pre-approve us to a certain point, or how does that work?
So part of this is we are working with Black and Beach to get some good cost estimates. Because we know that we want a 5 MGD plant. They have similar plants to what we're wanting in, I believe there's one in DeSoto and in Gardner, and those were built not that long ago. So we're using some of those example projects to figure out what those costs are. So we're looking at about $100 million or more for a wastewater treatment plant to get us that 5 MGD. There might be a little bit more that we're going to need to put in there in order for us to expand that plant to a larger facility in the future. So there might need to be some infrastructure that it makes sense to put in now, so that we can use that as a springboard to expand that plant in the future pretty easily.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're using that $120 million figure for that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
any other questions, comments?
And for the grant application, we don't have to have everything designed to a conceptual level or anything like that. A thought and an idea is good enough for these applications at this point.
I said the order of decision-making just was new to me, so I was making sure that I understood how it was going forward.
Well, I'm figuring it out as I go along too. So we'll do this together.
And this is, for this project, one step of probably at least 100, or well more than that will happen over a series of years, in advancing this.
Well, and there's a lot of things that are moving on behind the scenes associated with this project. We're looking at a progressive design build for this to kind of help fast track that 3-year time frame in order for us to get full ramp up with the facility. So we're trying to take steps now to get us better prepared so that whenever we're ready to flip that switch, we'll have consultants ready to start designing, and we can get as many people on board to help us out as we can. So you'll see that here in the next couple of meetings moving forward. A little sneak preview.
Any other questions, comments? Not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve a task order with Black and Beach for the SRF and WIFIA loan applications. Authorize staff to submit a loan application to KDHE for the SRF program, and authorize staff to submit a loan application to EPA for the WIFIA program.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you very much. Thank you. That ends formal council action at this time. We'll move on to a discussion item, and the first item on the agenda is the citywide sidewalk improvements, and Mr. Spear, you have the floor. This is a pretty exciting one.
It's no wastewater plant. So we've been talking sidewalks for a while now, and went back, not just myself, but a number of staff members have been looking at this, working on this. In 2020, the city had a sidewalk study done, completed by Bike Walk KC. It identified all the existing sidewalks in the community, at least all of them that existed in in early 2020, made recommendations, both near term and further out future sidewalk installations. And it really honed in on and identified the need to create a walkable community core, which should come as no surprise to any of us. And that's what we've been talking about, is sidewalks in this central part of the city that don't exist in most places and are greatly needed. So, and it doesn't show up wonderfully here, but the areas that have sidewalk now are highlighted in blue. There's some darker blue lines in there. Inside that circle, there's a big area of white lines. That's this central part of the city that doesn't have sidewalks. So in looking at it, it became clear that we have these clusters and pockets that have decent connectivity, and we need something in this central part of the city to connect all of those. Well, it also talked about prioritization. So it's a little hard to see on the screen, but what you're looking at here is the lines in the green color and the purple color were existing sidewalks. The near-term priorities that they identified are shown in the yellow, and then the future further out are highlighted in blue. So, just sticking with this map for a little bit, some of these areas, my eyes immediately went to these yellow lines. What are they identifying as, or at least in 2020, what did they identify as the short-term, near-term priorities for sidewalks in the city? I'm going to kind of take this south to north. There is that area of South Webster. I don't have a pointer, but it's in yellow on South Webster, near this bottom part of that illustration. We've talked previously about kind of that triangular area of South Webster, 223rd, and Victory. You'll see on here, South Webster is a yellow near term, and both 223rd and Victory are shown in blue as a little further out to future priority. So the actions that we've taken recently with some of the grant money and plans going forward for a walking trail in that area addresses that triangle that was identified back in 2020. So we move just a little further north and slightly east. There's a shorter segment of yellow line. That's a connector from 217th Street, comes into the back of the middle school. And that connector, there's a drive along there, but there's no sidewalk. And so that was identified as an important pedestrian path for students and any residents walking to and from the middle school. That is on school district property. We have had discussions with the school district. They have that on their capital improvements plan and have a plan for moving forward with that. So it's been nice looking at these things now and going back and taking a look at this 2020 plan and seeing that a lot of these things are in motion now. So then that takes us a little further north to that network of yellow lines that is running through the central part of the city. Now, I will say, I want to take a little kind of call it editorial privilege here, that top right of those yellow lines is going along 207th, and then it comes back south down Lincoln Street and makes a jog in an area that actually the street doesn't connect through there, and would come up behind the police department public works building and tie back in at Main Street at Nichols. I'm not sure how or why that made it high on the prioritization list. Just in my personal opinion, pedestrian sidewalk through the middle of that industrial area down Lincoln Street wouldn't make it as high on my priority list as a lot of those others. So taking that one out, then, that kind of leaves us with North Street, Washington, Nichols, Hale, South Street, that this core part of the city that we've been talking about for months, and trying to figure out, how to get sidewalks in this part of the city. That 2020 report also talked about the how and some of the opportunities and obstacles for that. It noted several key challenges. The first two were noted that I'll talk about were noted in the 2020 study, and the third one I've added. Narrow right of way. In some parts of this part of town, some of those street rights of way are only 30 feet wide, 35 feet wide in some. When you start putting a street wide enough for two-way traffic, and then the open ditches that are there for drainage, it doesn't leave a whole lot of space, a lot of real estate left to put those sidewalks in. If we don't have that right of way, now we're talking about trying to secure easements from individual property owners, and that becomes more time consuming, more expensive, and just significantly more difficult. So the narrow rights of way are a constraining factor and definitely represent a challenge. We've talked about this before. The lack of curb and gutter in this part of town, those open ditches are a challenge. As things sit today, in order to get sidewalks in, really the only option is to place those sidewalks beyond the ditch, between, say, the homes and the ditch. There's just not enough space between the edge of the roadway and the taper, the slope for the ditch to fit that sidewalk in. So you're looking at going toward the private property side of the drainage ditches, and and closer to those homes. Or the alternative to that is, the major modifications of putting in stormwater infrastructure, eliminating the open ditches, putting in pipes, burying those, covering that up to create additional flat space, if you will, to put the ditches or the sidewalks where the ditches are today. One of those makes for a better end solution, but is much more expensive, much more time consuming. The low-hanging fruit, the faster and less expensive way would be to find where we can put those sidewalks in between the properties and the ditch. But even in those areas, there are a number of obstructions. There are large mature trees in those areas, and people have put have planting beds and flower beds there. There are utility poles, parking areas that, and it may technically be on city right of way, and it's not private property, and people are using it as if it were their private property. And while we have every legal right to use that property for our municipal purposes, it doesn't come without its challenges. So as we go knocking on those doors and saying, hey, the way that you've used this for the last however many years is about to change, that's going to likely to be met with opposition. Residents may not be real receptive to that. So that's another challenge to this whole process. All of that said, you all have, the community has made it a priority. It's a budgetary priority. We've set money aside last year and this year to install sidewalks, and we want and need to get sidewalks installed. What I am proposing here is really taking advantage of the lowest hanging fruit, minimizing a lot of those challenges and obstacles that I just went through. I think we can create a little energy, a little momentum here, and maybe get people excited about adding sidewalks. And that may, to use a bad pun, pave the way for adding some more sidewalk and getting to those more difficult areas. So I looked at where do we not have as many of those obstacles? Where do we have more room? Where do we, where are the property owners that are going to be the most willing to, to take this on or have this project along their property? So one of those property owners is the city of Spring Hill. So around this site that we're in tonight, so Madison, King, Jefferson, Lawrence, around this facility, there's no sidewalk today. So just like, this represents a large block or almost 2 blocks of city street that we could get sidewalk in with no opposition from from the abutting property owner, and there really aren't obstructions. There aren't large trees in the way. It's pretty wide open and clear, so there's room to work with doing that. And also, so on this map, what I have shown in kind of the yellow-orange color there is what would be proposed for new sidewalk. The purple are existing sidewalks. And I say that in varying states of repair or disrepair. Some of them are in okay shape. Some of them I had to physically walk on them before I knew there was a sidewalk there, or once upon a time. But everything in purple is some of the existing sidewalk networks. You can also see how this would connect to it or be in close proximity to some existing sidewalks. Moving just a little further south, so just to kind of help orient you, on the bottom of this screen, the east-west road is Nichols Street, and on this screen, Nichols is is at the east-west at the top. So just kind of lining things up. So I'm going to draw your attention to the kind of middle right, just west of Webster Street. There's a vacant lot on the northwest corner of Webster and Johnson, and then a little further west on the northeast corner of Johnson and Madison is a lot that is about to be redeveloped. So with that redevelopment, they'll be putting sidewalk in on both sides of that development. So that will be added. That's what's shown in blue there. And then just to connect that with Webster Street, it's a short piece of orange shown there. If the city were to add sidewalk along the side of that vacant lot within the city right of way, we'd have another block of connectivity and getting things back to Webster. So that doesn't seem like a whole lot. When you look at that whole area, as I go, from around the City Hall complex, as well as that block of Johnson Street. But just to give you an idea of the budgetary impact, so looked at the quantities, put some costs together for a 4-foot sidewalk, which I would recommend in this area. Just taking the whole thing in. 5-foot sidewalks really work a whole lot better for allowing a couple of people to pass. In a lot of areas, I would say yes, we should absolutely be thinking about and go with 5-foot sidewalks. With both the space restrictions here, it's going to be hard to fit a 4-foot sidewalk in places. So 5 would be great, but I think 4-foot is more realistic. Also, I think we have to keep in mind the fact that if we put sidewalk in alongside of these open ditches and later we add storm sewer, curb and gutter, these sidewalks are going to be sacrificial and they will get removed through this. So again, all the more reason to not put 5-foot sidewalks and put money into any more infrastructure than we need to. So that being said, just to put the sidewalk in and do very minor grading, just a little bit of level up. We're going to use an estimate right now of about $100 per linear foot. to construct that sidewalk. So around City Hall here, that's a little over 1,500 linear feet, and that short piece on Johnson Street was 175 feet. So that's just over 1,700 linear feet at $100 a foot is $172,500. So that would come real close to spending the $100,000 from last year's budget and the $100,000 this year. Just to give you an idea, looking also city-owned property, the City Park along Washington Street between Nichols and Hale. That's almost 1,300 feet if we did the same thing and put sidewalk all the way around there. So, sticking with that $100 linear foot makes the math easy. And let me back up to the overall map. So you can see in that yellow up at the top of the screen, the longest north-south run in there is Washington Street. And it goes from North Street all the way down to South Street and kind of creates a backbone, if you will, to that sidewalk network. So, and another important piece is the lowest within that central district area, the southernmost east-west yellow line there is Spring Street. We have about 3 blocks worth of sidewalk along Spring Street from Webster West. So to continue that just a few blocks further over would make for a really good pedestrian connection as well. So just to give you an idea, that those were some key elements. I put some prices together at the bottom of the screen. So they're a little over $125,000 to go around City Park. That long stretch of Washington Street is almost a mile, 5,000 feet. So that's $500,000 to put sidewalk down one side of Washington Street. If everything were perfect and we could just just pour concrete on the ground, there are going to be complications. There's going to be some additional work in there. So but just to give you some rough budget numbers, and that finishing Spring Street to get it on over to Harrison is about $150,000. So just giving you an idea of some of those costs. That's where I would recommend starting. Like I said, I think that's the low-hanging fruit, the least amount of opposition, the easiest to get going, and hopefully it'll build some synergy. People will see it and say, hey, that's great. How can I get that sidewalk in front of my house? And we can start that conversation. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
You brought up curb and gutter. What is that if we did that instead? Because that would be kind of we wouldn't be doing it twice, we'd be doing it once.
Yeah, so when we talk about curb and gutter, especially in this part of the city, we can't just talk about curb and gutter, we've got to talk about storm sewer as well. Right now, the water flows off of this, runs off of the street, comes off of the yards, and collects in those ditches. If you put a curb, then now you've got to have inlets to collect that water and piping to get it away. So the curb, you have the curb and gutter cost to construct it. The much larger piece of that is putting the pipe in the ground that you then cover up, that will facilitate that curb and gutter. It's a lot harder. 4-foot sidewalk, it's pretty easy to give a price per linear foot. It's really hard for me to give you a good idea on curb and gutter because of that storm sewer piece. In some places, an 18-inch diameter pipe would be all that's required. Some places we may be talking about a 5-foot by 5-foot concrete box, and so it just changes a lot from one street to another. On order of magnitude, though, I think you're probably looking at somewhere 8 to 10x if we're talking about curb and gutter and storm sewer inlets and then putting sidewalk in. So we really move from a few $100,000 to get some sidewalk in to millions of dollars to completely change the street network in this central part of the city. I'm not usually a proponent of doing things twice.
No.
I think here it makes sense because just given the need, it would take decades to, if we said we're not going to do anything until we can do full curb and gutter and storm sewer, it would take decades to get sidewalk access here. So I think it's worth, in my opinion, spending several $100,000s to get that in now. And we're not saying no to the curb and gutter idea, but it lets us meet that need now instead of telling people, yeah, we're all for it, but you may not see it in your lifetime.
It could be 10 or 20 years before we get curb and gutter in areas of the, the old downtown here. So,
yeah.
My thing is I appreciate this plan and that you have and stuff. My big concern is South Street, and I know we've talked about it before. I see kids walking. I don't live around the area. I live, further towards 223rd, and I don't have kids walking to school. I have older kids now, but I just have a concern about that road because essentially, again, I know it's expensive. We're going to need to get the storm sewers and the pipes in there. But those kids, if they don't walk, they have to pay to ride the bus. And that might be an issue. So, I'm just trying to figure out how, I know that's a big project, but I see that as a big concern.
Yes. So we've got, and South Street is absolutely high on our list as well.
Yeah.
In fact, what Allison just handed me is, projects identified through this SS4A project. And we've sought grant
That'd
money.
be separate
Yes, absolutely.
from what we're talking about now.
Yes, absolutely. And,
Okay.
and I think it fits better as a separate project.
Right.
I'm already feeling like $200,000 isn't going very far towards sidewalk work.
Right.
And so I'm trying to put that toward the areas that we can get sidewalk in for the least amount of money. South Street still needs to be done, and we'll continue seeking, looking for funding partners and grant opportunities. Allison's great at finding those and going after those. So this is not saying no to South Street. I just consider that a bigger project, bigger scope.
So the Spring Street section that you identified is really interesting because I think that's the best pick out of the list that you put there because it gives you the most existing connections. So you're going to connect the farthest east 3 blocks that's already existing. You're going to connect to Harrison Street, which goes a little bit north and south. And you're also going to connect to, South or Noble as it turns there to go into that neighborhood. So you're getting 3 solid connections with existing. So there's no path to nowhere. Also, to piggyback on South Street, instead of walking south to walk on South Street, that gives you the option to walk north and to existing sidewalk and go east and west on Spring Street instead.
And there is a lot of kids that do that now, especially kids that go to the elementary school will walk north to Spring Street.
So,
go down there.
if you did the Spring Street section, that could serve as a decent alternative, a much safer alternative than South Street, while we know that South Street is a much larger and more expensive project because of the obstacles you already described, because all of that drainage is going to have to go underground.
Of course.
On South Street.
Of course.
And when we did the SS4A committee, we did highlight South Street as a very high priority. So that is definitely something the whole committee and Allison and with the whole grant funding and everyone together has, identified as a very high priority. So it is something that we are definitely chasing after.
Yeah, that Councilmember Peel was that line of thought on South Street kind of coincides with what we had talked about is it's South Street light. It's parallel to South Street, just a block away, and doesn't show up real well on this screen, but at South Street and Webster, there's a crosswalk there with a crossing guard at the elementary schools.
Right.
So it is as
Right.
it's as good a route and as good a crossing point as South Street. Maybe the middle schoolers, it may not be cool to walk past the elementary school, but it's a good route as well.
Well, there'll definitely be some parents that'll make it cool for their teenagers.
Well, and that's another part of the cooperation is if we have the sidewalk network, we can absolutely work with the school district, developing a safe routes to school program and put maps together, and at the beginning of every school year, get that communication out. It's hard to do that right now to say, hey, here's the good route when we don't have the sidewalks to facilitate it. But if we build those, we can absolutely partner with the school district to really advertise the fact that, hey, here are the routes that are best to take.
And that sidewalk in between Washington and Webster on Spring Street is in decent shape. Like compared to some of the others of the older part of town, that one's actually in pretty good shape.
Yes.
So I agree with Brian, extending that further to the west, I think would be, I would rather do that, even though I'd love to have a sidewalk around City Hall, I'd much rather put a sidewalk here because I think it would benefit more kids, which to me is the target really with, I love walking on a good sidewalk, but I'd much rather my kids walk on a good sidewalk or ride their bikes on a good sidewalk. So I'd much rather do that alternative and benefit more kids, in my opinion. What was the amount with if we did Spring Street and the little tiny section you were talking about? Is there?
It's almost identical.
Okay.
And there's only about 25 feet of difference between going around City Hall versus doing Spring Street. Again, we'll come back with actual costs. We'll bid this out. Spring Street, we haven't gone out and really surveyed it. I know there are driveways, there are homes fronting it. The opportunity for some additional conflict points is greater than going around City Hall.
You'll have problems for sure. But I mean, we're just looking at it on a map right now.
Yeah.
But that one, Spring Street makes the most sense. If you can fit Johnson in there with it, that little section, even better. But I would say Spring Street is top priority.
Okay.
And I think overall we'll have pretty good buy-in to it. 'Cause, I mean, we've heard from the whole community that they want more connectivity and more sidewalks. So, I mean, like Brian said, I'm sure we'll get some pushback from maybe a few homeowners, but I would say the overwhelming majority of the homeowners will want a nice sidewalk in front of their house.
So just to be clear, we're not immediately advocating for giving people and property owners free sidewalks, right? We're talking about making contact with the individual property owners, trying to pursue all the other alternatives to getting them to at least try to take on some of that cost first.
So what we've talked about thus far, there's money in the budget,
right,
in the city budget to fund that. We can absolutely look at a partnership if that's your direction. All of these numbers are full 100% costs. So if there was cost sharing, then the city's money goes further. I was again thinking about the path of least resistance.
My opinion is they should have had sidewalks when they were built back then. I don't think we should make all these citizens pay for the sidewalk. That's my opinion.
No, I also,
because then you will get a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
I don't think that's fair to ask them to pay for it. I think if they wanted sidewalk and were willing to pay for it in an area that we had not targeted or prioritized, it could be a conversation at that point for sure. I'm also not sure how realistic it is for us long-term to be able to put sidewalk on every single street in Old Town.
I don't think so.
I think it's going to be more of a spider web. We do 2 big east-westers and 2 north-southers, and do that simply because of the space. There's just not enough space to do sidewalk on every street. So if we can get some reasonable spider web in there, I think that's what our more realistic goal looks like. And then we're not also saying we're going to guarantee that we're going to build sidewalk on everybody's street. Everybody's going to get a sidewalk. That's not a realistic expectation. Neither is asking everybody to pay for sidewalk that should have been built there 50 years ago anyway.
Yeah,
So-
I think the whole goal is connectivity and then safe connectivity for kids to get back and forth from school.
I
East
like,
and-
I
east
like,
and west
the
and north.
I like the Spring Street idea a lot, like compared to the initial. I think that's a great first step.
Any other questions or comments?
Does that help you?
It does. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate that. With that one discussion item, we'll move on to announcements and reports. I have a couple announcements. One of them, I just went to a Royals game today, so if you haven't made it, I haven't been out to one in a couple years. Got to pull my kids out of school early and take them out there. It was beautiful weather, and they kicked some butt, won 10-0, so that was fun to go to. And then also, I just let everybody know I did put my name in, and I will be running for mayor for the next upcoming election. So you guys might get to see me for another 4 years. We'll see. With that, Mr. Thron,
I'm good.
Mr. Peel,
No report.
Mrs. Feedback.
I'm good. No,
Mr. Grant,
No report.
Mr. Massey,
No.
Mr. Lau, Captain Khan, Chief Khan, whatever you like.
While we were talking about grants, figured I'd give you an update. In 2023, I came to you guys with a grant for a TrueNarc narcotics spectrometer, and as of today, I was uploading some scans from it, and we've used it about 400 times, including a stop this week during which the department recovered methamphetamine and fentanyl on a traffic stop. So that has been heavily used and has benefited the department quite a bit. And we will be coming to you at the next council meeting with another grant proposal.
Awesome. Mr. Burton, Mrs. Abel.
Okay, so I've been very good about bringing items before you for grants and everything like that. I did want to let you know that I did submit something last week. There was a very short period of time. There was a congressional appropriations through Senator Jerry Moran's office that allowed us to get some additional funding for our wastewater treatment plant. So we applied for $2 million of grant funding for the wastewater treatment plant through that congressional appropriations. Fingers crossed that we will get it. But we did submit that application on the 28th. There wasn't a whole lot of time for me to bring that before you guys, but there will be an opportunity in the future for you guys to approve the grant funding agreement when we get that, not if we get that, when we get that. So I did want to give you guys a heads up that I did apply for that, and I'm going to keep trying to bring these ahead of time to you to give you to get that authorization. But this was such a short period of time and too good to be true, and we just had to apply for it.
Awesome. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
I just want to let you know, Ashley reached out to Public Works and the Police Department about the First Fridays event, just to see if they had any comments. And currently, staff has, no changes to make, but we'll just kind of keep an eye on things. We went ahead and issued the next one for June. And I think July, they were wanting to do something different, so we haven't seen anything on that. But as far as staff went, it went well too. So I just wanted to let you know that that was that report.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Dunn.
No report.
Mrs. Jones.
No.
Mr. Spear.
Give you a quick update on the Aquatic Center. So much like last season, we fired up the pool and filled it with water and found that we had a number of leaks. Unlike last season, we have found those leaks and repaired them. So 5 leaks have been repaired this season. The pool is full of water and clean and ready to go. So we're staff is working, and some of our seasonal employees have already started work, so getting everything ready to go. But we're excited about another pool season. If you haven't already, get your pool passes. We are fully anticipating being open on the first day. No delays this year.
Awesome. My wife already bugged me this week and said I need to go get our passes.
My daughters are ready to work.
There you go. All right, with that, that'll end announcements and reports, and we'll move on to our first executive session. Does anybody need a break before then, or can we go right into it?
5 minutes? Okay.
And the first one, we need 10 minutes, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I entertain motion. Sorry.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 10 minutes to receive advice of council regarding economic development pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 of the Kansas Open Meeting Act. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 8:40 p.m. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Lane Massey, City Administrator; Rhonda Dunn, Finance Director; Spencer Lau, City Attorney; and Pat Burton, Community Development Director.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. See you guys. Welcome back, everyone. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened into open meeting at 8:40 PM. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. With that, I entertain a motion to move into executive session number 2.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 20 minutes to discuss matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1 of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 9:02 PM. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Spencer Lau, city attorney.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. See you soon. Welcome back, everybody. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened into open meeting at 9:02 PM. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. With that, I entertain a motion to move into or extension for 15 minutes.
I make a motion to extend executive session for an additional 15 minutes, and to complete at 9:18 PM.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Welcome back, everybody. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened in open meeting at 9:18 PM. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated, and with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Have a great night, everyone.